evening on Saturday, October 9th, 2010, a 62-year-old woman named Ruth Halpern sat inside her small one-room cabin in rural northern Wisconsin. Ruth lived alone, and she had for nearly 20 years, ever since her husband died. Her children were grown, they lived out of state, and she rarely saw them, and she kind of liked it that way. She liked her solitude. Most nights she would sit in her old recliner, just listening to the local radio station, sometimes knitting, sometimes just staring out her window at the endless wall of dark pine trees that bordered her property. But that particular night, something felt off. Ruth had told a neighbor the following week that around 8 p.m., as she sat with her radio on low, she began hearing a strange noise outside. It sounded almost like a low whistle, rising and falling in pitch. At first, she thought maybe it was the wind squeezing through the trees, but it was steady. Too steady. Almost patterned. After a while, she just got up, pulled her shawl tight, and went to the window. Her cabin sat about 30 feet back from a narrow dirt road that wound through the woods. On clear nights, if a car came down that road, you could see the headlights cutting through the trees from a mile away. But that night, Ruth saw no cars, not even a single headlight, nothing. Then, she opened the window slightly, leaned out, and listened. The whistling stopped. But then, faintly, she heard another sound. Footsteps, slow and heavy footsteps on the gravel road outside. Now, this was very unusual for Ruth. That dirt road saw maybe 1 or 2 cars a day, usually hunters or loggers, and absolutely no one walked it, especially at night. It was basically too remote and too risky. But Ruth didn't panic. She just figured maybe it was a lost hiker, or someone from one of the scattered cabins nearby. She shut her window, locked her door, and went back to her chair. The radio played soft static and country music, and eventually she dozed off. The following morning, her nearest neighbor, a man named Jerry, who lived about a half-mile away, walked down the road past Ruth's property. He would later tell police that as he came up the hill by her cabin, he noticed something kind of strange on the dirt road. Long drag marks, like something heavy had been pulled along the gravel toward the trees, and that the tracks started directly across from Ruth's driveway. Jerry called out for her a few times, but got no answer. He just assumed that maybe, she'd gone into town early, so he went home. That evening, when Jerry noticed Ruth still hadn't returned, he got worried. He called the sheriff's office and asked them to do a welfare check. Deputies arrived around 6 p.m. and knocked on Ruth's door. No response. They tried the knob. It was unlocked. Inside, the cabin looked mostly normal. The radio was still on, her knitting was still draped over the recliner, but Ruth wasn't there, and her purse and coat were still by the door. There was no sign she had gone anywhere voluntarily. The only thing out of place was the back door. It was wide open, swinging slightly in the wind. The deputies went outside and began looking around with flashlights. Within minutes, they found something alarming. About 20 yards into the trees behind her cabin was a large patch of disturbed earth. The ground was churned up, pine needles scattered as if someone had been thrashing or struggling there. And right in the center of that patch, pressed deep into the soil, was what looked like a handprint. A single human handprint. But here's the part that baffled investigators. The handprint was enormous, nearly twice the size of Ruth's own hand. Search teams scoured the woods for days. They brought dogs, helicopters, and even volunteers. They found no body, no clothing, no blood. The only other thing they did find was about a quarter-mile deeper into the forest. A series of tall, smooth gouges cut high up into the bark of several pine trees, almost like claw marks. After that, the official search was called off. Ruth was declared missing, presumed dead. Now, on the surface, it might have seemed like a tragic, but not entirely unusual disappearance. People went missing in the Wisconsin woods every year. Hunters got lost, hikers had accidents. But Ruth's case stood out for one reason: the reports that started coming in after her disappearance. Over the next 6 months, at least 7 different people driving along that remote dirt road at night claimed they saw a woman standing at the edge of the trees. She was always described the same way: an older woman in a shawl standing completely still, facing the road. One couple said they slowed down to ask if she needed help, but when their headlights fully illuminated her, she just simply wasn't there anymore. Another man swore that he not only saw her, but that as he drove by, she raised her arm, pointing directly at his car. He was so shaken, he didn't drive that road again for years. Authorities never officially connected those sightings to Ruth, but locals had no doubt. To them, it was clear. Something had come out of those woods that October night. Something had taken her. And for reasons no one understood, a part of her had stayed behind. Today, Ruth's cabin still sits empty, slowly rotting away. Hunters passing by say the windows sometimes fog from the inside, even though no one lives there. Others say they've heard the same faint whistling Ruth described, drifting between the trees. And every now and then, in the fall when the nights turn cold, people still report seeing a woman in a shawl, standing silently on that dirt road, staring back toward the cabin she never left.